सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। दयाकरं दयाकारं दान्तं धर्मप्रवर्तकं प्रणमामि दयानन्दं मदाचार्यवरं परम्। ॐ गं गणपतये नमः। ॐ गं गणपतये नमः। ॐ गं गणपतये नमः। वेदो नित्यमधीयतां तदुदितं कर्म स्वनुष्ठीयताम् तेने शस्य विधीयतामपचितिः काम्ये मतिस्यज्यताम् पापौकः परिधूयताम् भवसुखे दोषोऽनुसन्धीयताम् आत्मेचाप्यवसीयताम् निजगृहात् तूर्णं विनिर्गम्यताम् सङ्गः सत्सु विधीयताम् भगवतो भक्तिर्दृढादीयताम् शान्त्यादिः परिचीयताम् दृढतरं कर्माशु सत्यज्यताम् सद्विद्वानुपसृप्यताम् प्रतिदिनं तत्पादुका सेव्यताम् ब्रह्मैकाक्षरमध्यतां श्रुतिशिरो वाक्यं समाकर्ण्यताम् वाक्यार्थश्च विचार्यतां श्रुतिशिरः पक्षः समाश्रीयताम् दुस्तर्कात् सुविरम्यतां श्रुतिमतस्तर्कोऽनुसन्धीयताम् ब्रह्मैवास्मि विभाव्यताम् अहरः सर्वः परित्यज्यताम् देहेऽहं मतिरुच्यताम् बुधजनैः पादः परित्यज्यताम् क्षुद्व्याधिश्च चिकित्स्यताम् प्रतिदिनं भिक्षौषधं भुज्यताम् स्वाद्वन्नं न तु याच्यताम् विधिवशात् प्राप्तेन सन्तुष्यताम् शीतोष्णादिभिषह्यताम् न तु वृथा वाक्यं समुच्चार्यताम् औदासीन्यमभीप्स्यताम् जनकृपा नैष्ठुर्यमुत्सृज्यताम् एकान्ते सुखमास्यताम् परतरे चेतः समाधीयताम् पूर्णात्मासु समीक्ष्यताम् जगदिदं तद्बाधितं दृश्यताम् प्राकर्म प्रविलाप्यताम् चितिबलाम् नाप्युत्तरे श्लिष्यताम् प्रारब्धं त्विह भुज्यताम् अथ परब्रह्मात्मना स्तीयताम् prarabdham tviha bhujyatam atha parabrahmatmana sthiyatam. So we were saying Shantyadif Parichiyatam. Just the step in the second verse, second line of the second verse. So what does this mean? Shantyadif Parichiyatam. Parichiyatam, the collection of all this qualifications, Shama, Dama, Adi. So we saw that for this Atma Jnanam, the pursuit of self-knowledge, pursuit of moksha, all synonyms, that one needs a certain qualification of mind. These are not ordinary qualifications, not like PhD, MBA, nothing like that. This is a qualification that one has to make effort in one's own thinking and also how one relates to the world. So all of these qualifications help the self-discovery process and the assimilation of that. So here, Shantyadev Parichiyatam, we saw yesterday. Then he leads on, Acharya, to Dridataram Karmasu Santyajyatam. Dridataram means, again, firmly. So we saw that Bhakti Drida as well. Here, firmly, this firmly may you renounce all the actions. So here we saw Kamye Matistyajatam. All the Kamya karmas have been also renounced now. Here he is talking about all the vihita karmas or the enjoined karmas in the Shastra. So actually that is only meant for sannyasi. It's already come to sannyas now. Only traditionally, only a person who has taken to sannyas can renounce all the vihita karmas, enjoined karmas in the Shastra. So again, we have to take it contextually. Today's day and age, we can't all take sannyas. Already in 10th step, the sannyas, right? So we lessen our roles in life. That is always, it's always a lessening. It is not a sharp cutting off. It is not just it is a lessening of roles in life. So karma here means vihita karma, enjoined karmas. And why do we have to lessen the duties in life? We can see how much these duties drag us outside. So first, where we used duty, we lived as as a karma yogi for a length of time, fulfilling all our duties. It was very difficult to fit Shravanam in. So whenever I get a chance, I used to fit it in here. But if my children needed help, I would have to go to the children because duties are there. Husband needs something, wife needs something. So all of this karma yoga lifestyle, we saw doing your duty, that is predominant, that is number one. But now what is happening now, the duties themselves are becoming an obstacle also for the shravanam mananam nididhyasanam, because it is not easy to live with one foot in the world and one foot in spiritual life, right? It is not easy at all. So one has to decide, there has to be a point in life, which way am I going? Am I going to live always this type of life, or am I going to turn more to spiritual life? And when we turn more to spiritual life, what does it mean? It does mean a level of sacrifice. As I said, for every gain you want, there is an equal and opposite loss. For spiritual gain, it requires tremendous, again, focus. It requires tremendous self effort. So if I have 100 million things I'm doing at once, all the duties, it is not easy to focus. So if there is a point in my life, again, we don't neglect our duties to do this, but if there's a point in my life where I have done what is to be done, how do we know that's a point? Shastra says very clearly, when the children are, at a certain age where they can make their decisions, you look at nature, nature is the greatest guru. What, if you see all the species in nature, what happens with the offspring? How carefully the birds take care of their young. You see that they go, they feed the young, they take care of them so well. You can see even how a dog or a cat, domestic pet, takes care of its puppies and kittens. So much care, so much love. But there is a certain age When that cat is able to take care of itself, what does the mother cat do? It lets it go. It lets it go, lets it go to live its own life. See, it is happening in nature all around us. Only we are not able to let go, because there is an attachment formed in the I that ownership has come. When the ownership, as I said, when the ownership comes, there is that feeling of this is mine, this is mine. Again, it is very natural. We're not saying so. Nobody should feel. It's not to make people feel guilty. It is to see facts. If I spend my time all the time with a sense of ownership, I will always be invested in my offspring's life. I will always be invested in my duties. I will not have the chance for spiritual life. Spiritual life is not an easy life. It requires a lot of dedication, lot of commitment. See, when we do long-term courses as well, in those days, there was no connection. No connection. Now you have some internet, at least. In Rishikesh, of course, you have internet. In Anikatti, off and on, you have in some places internet. But there was no connection with the external world. You were totally with the studies and with the spiritual practices. So what Shankaracharya is saying is that examine yourself. Look at what you can give up. You can maybe give up certain things in your life, certain roles, reduce your roles in life. Keep the time, use the time for Nitya Naimitika karmas if you want, but even Nitya Naimitika karmas are given up here because they're enjoined by Shastra. So he's saying even lessen all of that. So service activities, all of this, you've done your life, you've done so much, you've served everyone, you've followed Pancha Mahayajnas, and now it is a time for your self-study. Now it is the time to focus. So you could call it Vanaprastha, people entering more into Vanaprastha lifestyle. So he's saying, take to this dedicated pursuit of knowledge quickly. Now, don't delay. By the time we know we're 80, we don't know. Suddenly time just flies. You wake up in bed, suddenly, every day I wake up, I have one more gray hair. Not one more, 10 more gray hairs. So you say, oh, just yesterday I thought it was black. Now graying, the knees start, hurting more. Getting up is a big, big task, after some age. Can't even get up out of the chair. This is creaking, that is creaking. Before you know it, age just creeps up. We don't even recognize. So that's why he's saying, start quickly. This is only like the 10th step or so. So he's saying, start quickly. Take to this dedicated pursuit of jnanam. And once you've lessened your roles and you made the decision to follow this path more intensely, then what is the next step? He says, Sadvidman upasripyatam. Only when one has lessened the roles, then he says here, may you approach one who knows this truth, and may you serve him daily. That comes, Tat Paduka Sevya. But here, the Satvitvan Upasripyatam Pratidinam. Pratidinam Tat Paduka Sevyatam goes with the next value, the next qualification. But these both go together. So approach somebody who knows. If not, see, in the Shastra, there are certain qualifications for a teacher that one has to look for. Generally, it is said Shrotriyam Brahmanishtham. Brahmanishta means one who abides in Brahman, one who is established in Brahman. Shrotriyam means one who is well read in the scriptures, one who knows the difference between dharma, adharma, the one who is well versed in the scriptures. So we also know we cannot tell a Brahmanishta. So, people often translate Brahmanishta as self-realized, self-discovered person. But how can we recognize a self-realized person? Who is to tell? Just if somebody is sitting quietly under a tree meditating, does that mean they're self-realized? Many times people mistake just silence, quietness, closing one eye, not speaking for self-realization. So this is where we have to be very careful. Even if you look at in the Puranas, many yogis were in deep samadhi. They're not ordinary people. They were very, very elevated people to be able to sit like that in meditation and samadhi for long lengths of time. But what do the stories of these rishis teach us? As soon as they were disturbed, anger, shapa, curse. So the same thing came out, right? After meditation, you can be in meditation for 10 years. You can be in samadhi for a long time. And you have made hand tills and everything. But soon as your meditation is disturbed, what do? Shapa. So this self-realized person does not have to be a jnani. So yogi and jnani are two different things. You can be a mahayogi, doesn't make you a jnani. You may still have things to process. So samadhi sometimes is like an escape. It is a state. When you go into samadhi, you have to come out of samadhi. So jnanam is not a state. It is your very swarupa. It is yourself. So when jnanam takes place, nothing can disturb you. What can disturb you? But anyway, these stories all have there is something to learn from all of these, and that is why they're given as well. But we should not mistake this when when you look at somebody thinking this is a brahmanishta, we cannot judge. We don't know. Shastra itself says only a brahmanishta can spot another brahmanishta. Only a self-realized person can spot a self-realized person. So this understanding of brahmanishta can be taken as somebody who is committed to this pursuit, somebody who is committed to this knowledge, and somebody who is well versed in the Shastra. These are the requirements that the students or the person seeker of knowledge that Shastra said should look for in the teacher. So, Satvidvan Upasripyatam, there is always this Upasametya that comes in Kaivalya Upanishad. This Upa prefix is always there. Upa means approaching close to. So what does that? That also reveals something. Sitting in a lecture, with somebody on the podium and just giving one lecture here and there and everything is not having a teacher. That is just listening to a lecture. Everybody can do that, but you don't get clarity, continuous clarity if that is the case. In those days, the students lived in close proximity with the teacher. That is very important because teacher's way of life, the other things are also part of the teaching. Gurukula Vasa, nothing like it. You learn service, you learn so many things. You learn to accommodate other shishyas. Lot of things come up, like this one guru is favoring this shishya, guru doesn't like me, guru is giving this seva to this one. I remember in our course as well, because there were quite a lot of students, everybody wanted to do Guru Seva. So I remember, and poor things, they just want to teach and they're there. So one of the Acharya's homes in their kutyas, then every morning about 10 people used to come and make his bed. So one person made his bed, the next one came and made his bed. I mean, it was already made, but people wanted to do something. And the Acharya allowed it because, to give that person feeling. But it is that feeling, like I want to be also doing seva. I want to be there. So this is all, again, learned in the Gurukula Vasa, how to adjust to others, how to deal with others. So many things I learned. So it's very important. Upasripyata means approach the teacher in the proper manner. So now you've discovered somebody who is committed to the knowledge, somebody who has knowledge of the Shastra. You recognize, how do you recognize? You have to listen a few times to know how it works, right? One lecture, generally, you can't pick up what the person is saying. You have to give it some time. People talk about also Nayana Diksha, this Diksha, somebody hits Shakti part and the Guru, you find the Guru like that. We don't believe in any mystic finding of Gurus. So Vedanta tradition is non-mystic tradition. So there's nothing like that. It is, how does the teaching help me in my life? You have to see that. What this person, the way they communicate, does it help change me in any way? Does it help me in my life? And that can only be seen over a length of time, right? It can't be seen overnight. So these are the ways we find. And then upasripyatam, once you're sure, upasripyatam means you approach in the proper manner. So emotional connection has been developed now with the Guru through the teaching. Approaching in the proper manner in those days was with Samit Panihi. So people used to go with twigs in hand. And why is this? Because the Guru usually had some yajna happening, some agnihotra happening in the Gurukulam in those days. So it would be symbolic that you go and offer the Guru service like that for his yajna to take place. But it is much more than that. All of these sticks represent those negative qualities that you see, kama, krodha, all those enemies of the mind that are obstacles to spiritual success. Kama, krodha, lobha, mada, matsarya, all of these, there are many things that become obstacles to us. So what you're saying with that is, you take my ego and mold it. You are surrendering to the Guru, offering those Samitpanihi. You take the ego and you mold it so it is fit for spiritual pursuit. So by the time you approach the teacher like this, you are very sure the teaching is working for you. So then then the emotional connection through the teaching is developed. We always did well in subjects where we're emotionally connected to the teacher. So any subject you enjoy, if you look in life, it is because you love the teacher as well. So in the same way, in this subject, when you love the teacher, you love the subject. When you love the subject, you love the teacher. And it's only for a length of time. Until you discover that truth for yourself, we keep that commitment going. So there's a very famous verse in the Mundaka Upanishad, which says, Pariksha Lokan Karmachitan Nirvedamayat Brahmanaha Nirvedamayat Nastyak Kritat Kritena Tat Vijnanartham Sagurumeva Vigachet Srotriyam Brahmanishtam. Pariksha Lokan, so the ones who come as well to this Guru, to the Guru, have seen the world. Pariksha Lokan. You've seen everything, you've experienced everything, the desire for everything has dropped off. So it's very interesting. Upanishad itself doesn't say just leave everything. It's actually saying see everything. Pariksha Lokam means having experienced all there is to be experienced. Then Nirvedamayat, then only Vairagyam comes. And when Vairagyam comes, dispassion, then this Upasamete, Upasripyatam, may you approach the teacher. Then the question may come, why can't I study myself? There are so many books here with translations. I can just take one translation and study myself. So we also traditionally say self-study doesn't work in this field, because when you're studying yourself, even if you're an independent thinker, you say, the words are cryptically given by the rishis. Upanishads usually are very small books, they're not big books, but one mantra takes how long to unfold? That is what we have to see. Mantras take long time, and the unfoldment is as per tradition. The unfoldment itself is handed over from Guru Shishya, Guru Shishya. So one word in Sanskrit may take a long time to even explain what the mantra is trying to say. So this feeling, I'm an independent thinker, I can do it myself, it doesn't work with this knowledge, because you retain the ahankara studying. The very reason this Shravanam works is because ahankara has to be kept to one side when you listen. So when you retain the ahankara and study, you're going to get academic knowledge, not the pramana cannot work on you. So this is one of the reasons we say the teacher is necessary in this tradition. And also, the teacher is necessary to make you question your notions about yourself. There are a lot of wrong notions. I am this much, I have this much, all the limited notions, I'm inadequate, I have lack, all this feeling of smallness and this victimization of the world, all of these feelings that need to get questioned. Why are those feelings there? What is that I that is getting victimized? All of this teacher points out that your notions about yourself may not necessarily be the correct notions. They may be erroneous notions. So at least the teacher will make you question what you think about yourself. So the conclusions that I have, teacher, helps to dismiss, helps to dissolve. There are also, the teacher also needs to explain what Bhagavan is. So understanding, Bhagavan has been a matter for belief so far. I believe in a concept of Bhagavan. Here, Vedanta, as Swamiji beautifully said, Vedanta is God is not a matter for belief. He is a matter for understanding. Why is that important? Because belief can change. One day you can believe in something, next day you believe in something else, right? Belief, if somebody comes and tells you, no, God is like this, so many people convert religions. Why? Because beliefs have changed. The religious conversion is based on belief change. It is, if it was understanding your religion, it cannot change, because understanding alone works. So if you understand, if you understand anything, understand that is a tree. A tree is what? It's got a roots, it's got a branches, it's got leaves, it's got a trunk. That is a tree. Once you understand that's a tree, if somebody tells you it's a giraffe, will you believe it? No, you can't change, because it is understanding. So when you understand Ishvara, then it cannot be changed. So that is why, we emphasize that nothing in Vedanta is matter for belief. It is matter for understanding. When understanding is assimilated, nothing can shake it. So teacher is required to help you discover that understanding of many, many things in life. So there are many stories in the Upanishads about these, how teachers are approached. One very famous story I always associate with this value is the Indra Virochana story from the Upanishads. So there is a very famous story in the Upanishad that says that Prajapati, who was the creator of all the beings, was giving a discourse somewhere in Swarga, somewhere in heaven, and he was talking about the self. He was saying the self is timeless, it is boundless, it is limitless. And he finishes with the last line saying that discovery of the self means that you attain all the three lokas at once. All your desires that you have are fulfilled at once, immediately. Hearing this, Indra, who is the lord of the Devas, and Virochana, the lord of the Asuras, both became very excited, because both had ambitions, right? So Deva Lord also has ambitions, and Virochana also had ambitions. I mean, they didn't, that self is timeless line wasn't as important as the last line. You will attain all the three worlds at once. So they heard that, then they became very interested. What is this? What is this knowledge? We want to know from Prajapati. So Prajapati, even though he was their father, he did not teach them until they asked. So that is another thing that was in those times. This knowledge is to be asked for. So even here, the word is that upasripyatam, but then he will say you have to ask for it. Brahmekaksharam artyatam. So here, what Indra and Virochana approach Prajapati, and they say we want this knowledge. What does Prajapati do first? So they approach with the rules and regulations laid down, and they approach with all humility. But what does he do? He says, do service for 32 years. Immediately he puts them into service. So that again shows that there is preparation required. When you go to the Gurukulam, you will be put into service. Any ashram you go to, actually, you'll see many ashrams are run on service alone. So I've come from background where everything is run on service. Everybody's, and they have, specific times per year where people come and do seva to make that place run. Service blesses the mind. Service helps develop antakarana shuddhi. Service creates humility in the mind. So all of these reasons, the teacher in spiritual life puts the disciples to service. And sometimes it's not what you want to do. It is what is good for you. You can't choose. Nowadays you have, students who say, no, I would like to do this task. You have a list. I want to do this task. In those days, what the Guru gave, you had to do. And if you don't know it, you have to learn it. That's even another. And in fact, you discover more talents doing that because you discover I can do it. It is only the mind blocking. I had somebody, the YouTube channel, they did not know some YouTube videos, but immediately they learned how to do it. They learned, they studied, they learned how to do the YouTube videos, and it's very professionally done. So you can discover talents and everything as well, how to do things. So here, Indra and Virochana, they were put to service. After 32 years, they go back to Prajapati. And he teaches them. What does he teach them? He says one thing. He says, go to a water body which is reflective, a very, peaceful water body. Look at your reflection in the water. The being that you see in the pupil of your eye is the self. That is Atma. So they do that. They go and they see. And what do they see? Obviously, they see the physical body. So they see that. They go back to Prajapati and he asks, what did you see in the water? What reflection did you see? So Virochana says, I saw this physical body as it is, and this must be Atma. He tells, Virochana tells Prajapati. Indra also says, I saw this, and this must be the self you are talking about. Prajapati does not complain, he does not say anything. What does he say? Yes, you are right. That is Atma. That's all he says. So they left very happily because they got the teaching. They thought they had understood the teaching. Prajapati, was he trying to fool them? Was he trying to mislead them? No, he was trying to test them because gurus also test. How intelligent is this student? Can this student really think about, contemplate on things? So Virochana is not one of those students who contemplates. So he goes back to the Asuras, and what does he tell the Asuras? This body is the self. Enjoy, feed the body, enjoy with the body, enjoy sense pleasures, have fun with. That is Asusu Ramate iti Asuraha. Those who revel in sense pleasures are called Asuras. So he taught his people that reveling in sense pleasures is the way of discovering Atma. So he was quite happy. But Indra, you see, differentiate between the gods and the asuras, the demons. So Indra, halfway there, click, something went in his mind. He remembered the first line of Prajapati, this Atma self is timeless. This Atma self is deathless, birthless, deathless truth. And that struck in his mind. And he said, but I saw this physical body. It is born in time. It is going to die in time. And it is not timeless. It is not boundaryless. This cannot be Atma. So he had the doubt. So what did he do? He went back to his guru, Prajapati. And what did Prajapati do? Did he teach him? He said, 32 years of seva, one more round of seva, do 32 years of seva. So this is how in those days this knowledge was very, again, to show it is not easy to gain. It takes a long time to assimilate, understand. When the mind is ready, it will happen immediately. But half of the battle is preparing the mind, and seva becomes another tool. So the next one, Pratidinam tat paduka sevyatam, he brings in, may you approach the one who knows the truth and serve him daily. So may you serve him daily. Here you've approached him, but now it is service. And it is service because there is already an emotional bond with the teacher. And when you do the service to the teacher, there is a blessing that comes, there's a blessing that flows. So what service we do, whatever is needed for the Gurukula to function in those days was done by the students. Even in the cooking, in some places, the students themselves cook the food. They cut the food, they chant, or they do some sadhana while that is happening, and they do the cooking. So this jnana requires a long time, long wait to get it. So Sat Paduka Sevyatam, it is not saying serve his feet. Paduka, which is also very telling. Paduka is a connection to Guru. Paduka means you can be anywhere in the world and serve the Guru, right? So that's the beauty of it. You don't need to be in the physical presence all the time. Always people feel only physically serving the Guru is real service. No, you can be anywhere in the world and following what the Guru says is real service to the Guru. Paduka is just a representation of the Guru. Because the Guru generally, when he gives the Padukas, puts the feet there and he charges the Padukas. So whenever you go, wherever you go, it is symbolism, symbolic of standing for the Guru. So when I do this service, what do I do? Every day I invoke the Guru's presence in my life. So along with Ishvara, we see here as well, when we go to the Guru Sthanam meditation center, every morning we're invoking Pujya Swamiji's presence for the day. We're invoking Pujya Swamiji's presence for the studies. So this is what it means. Important to have this attitude of humility, of surrender. And why, people often wonder from the West when they see, especially Indians doing Pada Namaskar and all, because it is very alien to people. So I had just a retreat in Diwali and, all the Indians were falling at my feet, but the Westerners were finding it. And we do not expect anybody to fall. It's their own bhavana. But the Westerners, they came to me and said, we feel very strange. We are not used to this. So I explained, it is not, it is, you don't have to do this. But what it represents is that it is the lowest part of the body, right? So when you bow, you are bowing your ego. Your ego, you're making it low. So what it represents is this ego surrendering to some higher, something you feel knows more than the ego knows. So that is the symbolism of it. But it can be done manasikam. It doesn't have to. It is all in the mind, actually. That surrender, because people may bow, but the ego may still be there. So it's not something mechanical. It should be done. So according to, the culture, the tradition, there is no physical bowing here. It is the emotional bending that is being discussed. I emotionally bend in front of the teacher. I give the teacher the benefit of doubt. So I don't argue. Every time a teacher says, no, I read this in this book, you can't be right. That type of back and forth argument, I don't have any of those. So that paduka sevyatam, I keep some symbol of the Guru wherever I am with me, and I give some thanks to that. And then the next, Brahmekaksharam Atyatam. So now, after having done some service, after having spent time, this is the time, Brahmekaksharam, Brahma Eka Aksharam. You ask about that Brahman. You ask for that self-knowledge. This is the first step we are asking for self-knowledge. Or until now, it was all preparation, everything to prepare the mind. Finally, you ask for that knowledge of the imperishable, non-dual, that Brahman. And what is it to ask for that knowledge? Actually, what you're asking for is free me from sorrow. Because you have to connect. Why do you want to know Brahman? Is it, how is it connected to your life to know this Brahman? How is knowing Atma connected to your life? So when you ask for Brahman, you have to be very clear what you're asking for. You are connecting the truth of the whole of this Aksharam. Aksharam means it is never subject to decline. It is not subject to the Shat Vikaras. Everything in this world is subject to Shat Vikaras. It rises in time, it grows. If it's a conscious being, it grows, it changes, it declines, and it is gone. Before you know it, it is gone. That's called, there's 6 vikaras that are there. And all that we know which is living here is subject to the 6 vikaras. But Brahman is aksharam. It is naksharati iti aksharam. It does not decline. There is no decline. It is the same always. Never any change in Brahman. So you're asking for the changeless truth of Brahman. And why would you ask for that? That is what we have to see. Why would we ask the teacher for this? We have to connect it to our life. I asked the teacher for this truth because there's been a recognition taking place in my mind that moksha is discovery of this truth, of this aksharam. And we saw what moksha is. Moksha is freedom from all limitation, freedom from all sense of insecurity, freedom from the sense of smallness, of lack, and freedom ultimately from sorrow. Because moksha comes from the Sanskrit root much. Much means to be free. And whenever you say free, people will ask, free from what? You know, we have all these on packages now, free from gluten, free from, free from this, free from how many things, If you go to any, in the West, it's a very, very big thing. We go to any kind of restaurant now, you see menus. The actual dishes are very little. But under the dish, you say free from gluten, free from this, free from that, free from. So all this free from, if you see free from, then you have to ask what free from what? That's why we have a whole list. Free from all sense of insecurity, free from all sense of lack, free from sorrow. Main thing is free from sorrow. We do not want to be sorrowful beings. This was precisely why Arjuna, the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita is called Arjuna Vishada Yoga. The subject matter of Arjuna's sorrow, subject matter of Arjuna's depression. And whole of the Gita is what? To free him from that sorrow. So it's a very beautifully designed, actually, that book. It is not even a book, I wouldn't say. It is that knowledge. It's so beautifully laid out. The beginning of Arjuna's despondency and how he grows out of it. At the end, he says, Nashto mohaha, my moha has disappeared. My delusion is gone. Bhagavan says, where does his teaching start? He says in the second chapter, 11th verse, Asho Jnanan Vasho Chastvam. He begins with, don't grieve. And what does he end with? Ma Shuchaha. He ends with his teaching with Ma Shuchaha, don't grieve. So whole of Bhagavad Gita is from what? From don't grieve to don't grieve. In between, you find out how not to grieve, right? So how is this connected? So we discover the only way, Atmavit Shokam Tarati. Narada is told by Sanat Kumara, the only way to cross sorrow is knowing Atma, Atmavit. Become a knower of Atma, then no sorrow can ever affect you in your life. Until that time, you have to manage your sorrow. You have to go up and down with these emotions. You have to manage somehow in life. But that final freedom from sorrow is knowing that Atma. So, Brahme Kaksharam Artyatam. May you ask for this Brahman. You discover this Brahman, ask for this Brahman. And Shruti Shiro Vakyam Sama Karnyatam. May you listen well to the statements of the Upanishad. So next verse he will explain those statements more. But what are the statements of the Upanishad? Shruti Shiro Vakyam Samakarnyatam. Actually, there are very, very, very simple statements in the Upanishad. These are equations. These are called equations. So an equation is when one side is equal to another side. We know in mathematics. But what is the uniqueness of equation? Equation, the one side is not exactly the same to look at than the other side. So if you say, like, give you an example, 9 minus 3 equals 5 plus 1, right? They look both different, right? But what is they're equal, they're equal. So it's just like that. Tat tvam asi. Tat asi tvam. Asi is that equals. Tat asi tvam. They both look very different. Tat tvam asi is all you need to know in Vedanta actually. There's nothing else. If you hear that three words, if you're Adhikari, if you understand, you should get it. That's it. Everything, whole of the other teaching is just to make everybody understand and assimilate those three words, that equation. Tat is that truth, that Bhagavan. Tvam is this small individual jiva, the body, mind, senses, limited to this body, mind, senses. So when you first look at this statement of the Upanishad, what does it look like? That can never be equal. If you don't know, like in mathematics, E equals mc squared, another equation, right? So when you first, can a 5-year-old understand that? If he's a prodigy or something, maybe he can understand E equals mc squared. But how long does it take for normal people to understand? You have to go through all the schooling. You have to even probably get to college. By the time that equation becomes clear to you, even then it may not become clear, right? Some people know, I don't understand it at all. So this is how this equation is. It looks very small. Here it requires also a lot of unfoldment. So when you listen well to the statements of the Upanishad, what does it mean? Understand well the statements of the Upanishad. And that takes years because there are a lot of tools that even the rishis have given for understanding. So you have all these lakshanas, ajaha lakshana, jaha lakshana, bhagyatyaga lakshana. So many lakshanas, you have to analyze these statements. So they've gone into extreme depth. So on the initial level, that I cannot understand this equation. But slowly I begin to see what Upanishads are saying is not on the physical level. It is not what I see. It is something which is more intrinsic, something which is more inside. So Shruti Shiro Vakyam Samakarnyatam. We see also here, listen well. Samakarnyatam. Listen well to the statements. What does that mean? Not while cooking, not while chopping vegetables, drive. I used to ask, sometimes people listen while driving, but we always recommend when you have to focus on something, better not. I know somebody who did do that and they had an accident, not a major one, but they did teach because they were listening and they got absorbed in the, Shastra there. And they did tell me, I heard this thing, and then I turned without indicating, and somebody came and I said, that is why we don't do Shravanam driving also. Shlokas, stotras, and everything you can listen to while driving. But when you have to focus on something, don't focus on Shravanam and this. So, Sama Karnyatam, he's used not just Karnyatam. When you use the sam, he's adding extra something. Samakarnyatam means listen well, listen, focus it, focus on it. Another student told me how they did Shravanam. Very interesting. For one class, they used to listen first without any notes. So first time listening one class, no notes. Second time, the same class was listened to with bullet points. So second round of Shravanam with bullet points. 3 times each class was heard. The third time, full transcription of the class. So this is how much effort was made, sama karnyatam, to actually understand what is being said. It is not easy. So people say, I studied that text. I've already done this one. I'm going to the next text. It's not like studying, not like a list of how many texts you have studied. It is how many, like Chinmayananda says, you've studied many Upanishads, you've gone through many Upanishads, but how many Upanishads have gone through you? So you have to allow the Upanishads to go through you. There is no tick list of texts studied here. You can study the same text 100 times and still learn more. So the same talk you listen second time, there will definitely be some other unfoldment you get. Third time you listen, there will be some other thing you get. So actually Shravanam is the same thing you continue over length of time. You can listen to talks again and again. So sama karnyatam, very important. There is an art of listening. The art, we have all these books, the art of paperwork, the art of making embroidery. This is the art of Shravanam. There's an art of Shravanam. And when the Shravanam is done well, what happens? There's a cognitive shift that happens automatically because it is Vastu Tantram, as good as the object. So you don't have to see, if I say this is a phone, do you have to will it to be a phone? You have to will to see this as a phone? No, because knowledge is as good as the object is. Knowledge takes place in the mind because the eyes backed by the mind, knowledge takes place. That is called Vastu Tantram. Here also it is Vastu Tantram. Vastu Tantram is as the talk is being unfolded, you see it. You see it for yourself. That's why we love Vedanta, because when we listen to Vedanta, we listen to the knowledge about ourselves. In that lecture, in that moment, I'm with myself. In that moment, I recognize myself. After I step out, that's a different thing. But in that moment, I see myself for what I am, the limitless, that birthless, deathless truth of everything, and not limited by this physical body and its limitations. So I'm going to leave it here today before I begin the next, leave it here for this morning, and then we will see the next verse. Okay. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinah Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschit Dukha Bhag Bhavet Asato Ma Satgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Hari Om